Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about The Flash. 3 episodes this time. Episode 502, titled Block, which premiered October 16th. Episode 503, titled The Death of Vibe, which premiered October 23rd. And 504, which premiered on October 30th, and it was titled News Flash, and it is 20 minutes after that episode has aired. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first. Then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. Otherwise, my other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. This video is a little more premature than I originally stated, just because there's going to be a week break before 505 airs, so I figured why not do this video now. So I'm going to try to do this in 20 minutes. Start the clock. Hopefully, it's a little bit different, but let's start now. So, pretty much what's happened. So for the main plot reminder, I could say for the 3 episodes, for 502, I pretty much pinpointed it as Barry trying to train Nora. You get like these old footage of him in his early season 1 days. So there's that. And 503, we pretty much see Cicada targeting Vibe, specifically as his next metahuman target to the point that they had to fake Vibe's death. So there is that. And with 504, the main plot reminder here is the fact that there's this blogger who has an obsession with XS. So she makes all these cases and tries to get XS to be the ones to save the day, to the point that if she gets her famous, then that would give the reporter her own fame and popularity rising with it. So she's doing whatever means necessary. So there's that. Now, most shocking moment of the episodes would have to be for 502. I picked up on the part that Cicada either steals or dampens a metahuman's power through this lightning-shaped weapon of his. So there's that. With 503, we have the introduction of Sherlock Wells, and the surprising part was the fact that he wonders if Nora's decision to intervene with the Enlightenment satellite was actually her decision, pretty much insinuating the thought of whether she was working on her own or under someone else's influence. So there's that. Most shocking moment I thought for 504 was the fact that now we have to deal with meta tech, which was created during the Enlightenment, and that was due to the blogger having the cell phone having the metahuman ability, or I should say meta ability, while Cicada has his weapon, that's the lightning rod or lightning bolt dagger weapon, as his meta tech. So we now have that part to deal with. So the blogger ended up being human, but she was able to have meta tech ability. So it's a little trickier. It's not just a person now. Anyone can have the ability if they get a hold of the wrong Metatech type thing. So that was a shocking moment there. Now, main tidbit. There's probably a bunch that was revealed in the 3 episodes. I'm only going to pick on the main one that I thought was pretty standoutish for the 3 episodes. So 502, the main tidbit I thought was that Team Flash was told the truth about Nora and how she wasn't stuck in the past due to the negative tachyons. It was because she came wanting to know her father. So right off the bat in that episode, Barry and Nora confessed to the rest of Team Flash about why Nora was truly there. So their secret didn't really stay secret for that long, which was a good thing. So glad that happened. Now for 503, though, the main tidbit I thought was pretty much we got the reintroduction of the newest Wells. That is Sherlock Wells. He pretty much French accent, French background, who has 7 different ex-wives, and he has caught Cicada on 37 different times on 37 different Earths. This Cicada of this Earth is being very different from all the other 37 ones. All other 37s, it was David Hirsch. This time it's not. It's by some dude named Orland, I believe. But there is that. But we do not know which Earth Sherlock is from. Or I didn't pick up on which Earth he's from. So there's that. Now for 504, I pretty much amounted for the fact that in this episode, tidbit-wise, is that we find out that kind of what the big beef is between Nora and Iris, or what beef Nora has with the younger version of her mother. And that was the fact that for all of her life, Nora didn't know that she had powers until 6 months ago, when she found out that her mother had a dampening chip implanted in Nora in secret to suppress her powers. And Nora found out not from Iris. She found out from someone else. So she's only had her powers for the last 6 months, and Nora feels that's a huge betrayal. And that's why she's kind of like has this very frosty feel to Iris. Whether that's always been the case before that, or if that now because of this big betrayal that's kind of shifted how she views her mother. Don't know. But it definitely shows how much that lie has affected her. So that's a tidbit there. Now, moving on to my top favorite moment. I tried to only reduce it to the one favorite for each episode. So with 502, I will say my favorite moment has to be Cisco trying out Ralph's 27 steps to getting over a heartbreak. It's very interesting to see not only what the list was, but to see Cisco getting support from Caitlin and Ralph like that. It was very fun to see. And even though it's tough to see Cisco in that place, it's great to see that being a focus, because it's not something you just brush away. Cisco had a very real relationship with Gypsy. He connected with her in so many levels, and the fact that that's gone now, that has to affect him. So it was great to see that being addressed. So favorite moment for 503, I couldn't really pick, so I think I wrote down 3 different ones, but I like the fact that we got to see a hug between Barry and Cisco when he thought that Cisco was dead. I mean, it had me a little worried for a moment there, but again, it's Cisco. We can't have him die. But I'm glad we got that hug. The emotion in that was just, it was great to see. A second favorite I had was the fact that Ralph was helping Caitlin out. It was great to see that he's willing to go all in and help her get the answer she needs, be that support that he needed. It was great. And then also to see that from that, it led to Caitlin decoding the message from her father with her childhood periodic table, which was cute. So it was great to see Caitlin figure that out. So that was a huge favorite of mine as well too there. Now, for my favorite for 504, I would have to say is Caitlin's massive punch to Sherlock's chest. Granted, he asked her to punch him as hard as she could in the chest. So I just love the fact that she did it, first off, and his reaction to it was just fantastic too. I mean, his reaction to it showed like she punched a powerful hit right there. So it was just, and then she took a moment to relish the fact that like she did it, and then she asked him how he was. But in that moment, I thought I got a glimpse of Killer Frost, I don't know how to say it, but like, I don't know. There was no actual sense of Killer Frost, but the look kind of reminded me of her. But I was just glad that Caitlin was able to help him figure out a mystery in that sense. It's just great to see that much power into her too, because when it's Caitlin, we don't really see much of her doing the physical stuff. Usually when she's Killer Frost, we see that. So it's just great to see a trace of that, even though it was in the moment. So there's that. Now, top peeve moment, I'll have to say, is that each episode does have one. So with 502, the peeve I picked up on the fact was that Barry wasn't included in Cisco's side story of him getting over his heartbreak, and Barry wasn't involved in Caitlin's own side story with finding answers to her father's disappearance. It's a peeve of mine, because one thing I used to love about The Flash in season 1, season 2 was the friendship dynamic between Barry, Caitlin, and Cisco. I don't see much of that anymore, especially outside of the workplace. Even less. Well, I used to see them hanging out outside of work and stuff, and then it was great to see that a union between them at work too, but I don't really get to see that anymore. So it was such a peeve of mine that when Cisco is hurting and such, Barry is not there beside his friend helping him. Instead, he just looks to Caitlin and kind of expects, oh, you deal with this type of thing, and that just sucks. And then you don't see Barry asking Caitlin about all the stuff with her father. I don't even think he knows about her search for her father, which leads me to my peeve in 503, and it's the fact that I don't really think that Barry knows that Caitlin is searching for her father. I mean, in that whole lounge scene at the coffee, it was one of the sneak peeks, is where Sherlock was kind of proving his skills and then making a deal and like exchanging money and stuff like that. And Sherlock had mentioned like he could help Caitlin with her own mystery, but it would kind of charge you more. And then Barry looked at Caitlin, and the way he looked at her, it looked like it was more like, what is he talking about? Like, what mystery is he alluding to? And then Caitlin just shook her head as if, like, you don't have to worry about it. And if that's the case, that really pisses me off because, again, season 1, season 2, Barry and Caitlin had such a great friendship. And just to see that not even get any screen time, and the fact that he's not even there for her to help her find answers about her dad, when back in season 1, wasn't she there to help him when he was trying to figure out how to free his father from prison? It's such a huge disappointment that I don't see that friendship between Caitlin and Barry, especially when she has her own story of finding her own father like this. It makes no sense. I mean, like, they're not just co-workers, they're friends, and she's also his doctor. So it's like, they're involved in each other's lives so much that I would feel like Barry would want to help any way he could for Caitlin to get answers about Killer Frost, to find her father and stuff like that. And that's just a huge peeve of mine that keeps going across, because it just seems like their friendship is getting less and less screen time, regardless of not if you are a fan of Caitlin and Barry as a couple. Forget that. They had a friendship that just seems to be getting no recognition whatsoever. It really pisses me off. Which also stems to the fact that in 503, why wasn't Barry joining Ralph when Ralph offers to help console Cisco? Especially when, like, the death of Vibe, and, like, they're trying to, like, help him get used to, or try to feel better. It would just seem like all of that was relegated to either Ralph or Caitlin. Why isn't Barry jumping in? Why isn't Barry offering himself to be there for his friend? To be there for his best friend? Because I'm pretty sure Cisco is his best friend. So it's like, it's another peeve. I really miss the core trio that is Barry, Caitlin, and Cisco. And their friendship was everything for me for season 1 and season 2. And now I just don't see an ounce of it anymore. I see, like, less than half of what we got. So it's disappointing. It's a huge peeve again. And I didn't expect to rant. So I'll move on to 504. The peeve I had for this episode was, 1, there was no Cisco. I mean, they did explain the fact that he's keeping a low profile, but couldn't he have kept a low profile while staying at Star Labs? He could have stayed within the walls, right? So it's like, he could have still been there. He just probably couldn't be out in the field with them, right? So it was disappointing not to see Cisco. I do miss him. I think this is the very first episode where we do not get Cisco, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that. Also, another peeve was the fact that Sherlock belittles Ralph. And it's just like, even when Ralph had a huge gut feeling about, like, the mask and how that could lead them to somewhere, it really sucked that Sherlock was belittling Ralph's own detective skills. And then what was also worse was that a lot of people on the team, except for Caitlin, were also kind of going towards Sherlock's perspectives instead of giving Ralph his own credit. I mean, like, Ralph can do the job. He just might not do it as arrogantly so as Sherlock, but Ralph can still be a detective. He was a cop first. He was a private eye. He can find leads. He dug up secrets that he was hired as a PI to find for people. So it's like, he could do the job. So it sucked that Ralph was getting very little credit. It was made up for the fact that when Sherlock made his big discovery, he gave credit to Ralph because it was Ralph's initial lead. And then if they didn't have it, then Sherlock wouldn't have found his own lead. So at least he gave him credit and apologized to Ralph. So at least it makes up for that belittlement. But, like, I don't like that Ralph is being put down so much and, like, no one's defending him. Like, he's proved a lot over the last year. And it sucks. So I'll leave it at that. So I did have a new two little subsections just because I am doing, like, a recap of multiple episodes. So first one being about Caitlin's quest to find her father. I do love the fact that it's spanning over many episodes. We're getting a little bit of info every episode, so I really like that. So because of it, 502 revealed that through one of Cisco's vibes, Caitlin found out that her mom was connected to the fake death certificate for her dad. And then 503, she confronted her mom with Ralph. And because of it, they found an old file of her father's in her mom's things, which led to not only the childhood periodic table that she used to make and play with her father with, but also the suicide note that he left to her. But because of the suicide note left to a decoded message inside when used with the periodic table, and it pretty much told Caitlin to come find him. So while he was saying one thing to the world, secretly he was telling her to do the opposite and come find him. And then also there was someone who's actually watching her at Star Labs through the security cameras. So I think it's her father. Whether or not we actually met him before, that's the question. But again, they really need to beef up that security then if just anybody can hack into it. So there's that. Now with 504, though, there wasn't really any progress or any mention of Caitlin's search for her father. This episode, she was more focused on trying to figure out what was controlling Nora and Barry, and then also helping with Sherlock with the huge punch thing, and then the whole softball game where she was supporting the CCPD. So there is that. Also, it's got to tell you something, how great of a friend Caitlin is to go to Barry's softball game when she didn't have to. I mean, like everyone else, like Cecile was there because it's Barry, it's her, kind of like her stepson type of thing. Also because it was Joe's colleagues, I think, as well. Iris and Nora were there because of Barry. But like Caitlin, like she was there to support her friend Barry. So it seems like one-sided friendship I'm seeing. So I'll leave it at that. But there's no news on Thomas Snow in 504. Now moving on to Circadia though. So what we found out in each of the episodes is that in 502, we find out that Circadia is targeting metahumans and he could steal and or dampen their powers. It seems more like dampen, but in the moment it feels like he's stealing their powers. In episode 503, it looks like the metahuman powers that I guess in 503, it was when it was confirmed that he dampens their powers. It also confirmed that he is a father himself with a hospitalized daughter, and it appears like his first name is Orland. And it looks like the doctor is aware of his injury, and his injury glows as if like there's like a fusion reaction underneath the wound itself. So there's that. Now in 504, we find out that Cicada's powers and his weapon were both created from the Enlightenment satellite. Also, we see Circadia getting an increase in his strength, but also he seems to have a lot harder time to breathe, like his lung capacity is either weakening or decreasing. So we see that in the final scenes of the episode. Sorry. Okay, so let's move on to questions. So this is any questions pertaining to the 3 episodes that pop up. Looks like I have 4 of them. But first question is, why isn't Barry being involved in Caitlin's search for her father? I did mention this in the P for 503. Again, it was something, like if this storyline, if her search for her father was something that was happening in season 1 or season 2, I truly believe that Barry would be by her side with Cisco trying to find her father 100%. He'd be more involved, or he'd be asking more questions about her progress and how she's feeling about all this. But like now that it's like 3-4 years from that part of their friendship, I'm not seeing anything. So I'm wondering why the hell that is. Is it really because there is a threat against the more Snowberry couple pairing that they have? I mean, like, no, regardless of whether or not you ship them as a couple, first and foremost, there was a good, solid friendship between Barry and Caitlin before any of that. I mean, that's kind of why people started shipping them together, is because there was a foundation there for Barry and Caitlin. So regardless of whether or not Barry and Iris are the golden standard, he still has that friendship with Caitlin. And I feel like that has just been put on the back burner since he got together with Iris, which is completely unfair. Because Caitlin is not only a friend, she's a co-worker, but she's also his doctor too. So it's like there's that trust level there. And it's just to not see that be featured or highlighted in any way is just showing how much of a change has happened. It just seems like they aren't as good friends anymore, which I don't get that. Like, I don't want to get that sense. After everything they've been through, I would think that they're still good friends. I mean, now Cisco seems to be taking the brood of it as well, but that's my question there. Another question is the fact, and something I'm not quite understanding, is the fact that if the public knows about XS, doesn't that ruin the timeline even further? I mean, wouldn't it be best if Nora just stayed within Star Labs and the only people she made contact or communicated with was with Team Flash, that therefore reducing the amount of changes her presence makes, kind of like the butterfly effect, right? If she goes and talks to somebody when she was never supposed to, then that interaction could affect that person and so forth and such with, right? I mean, like, she's already made a massive change to the timeline because she interfered with the destruction of that Enlightenment satellites, and there's the timer. So it's like, why the hell would you let her go out? Like, I get her wanting to get to know Barry, that's fine, but she doesn't have to do that while exposing herself to the rest of the 2018. She can still get to know her father at Star Labs. She can still get to know her father at home, but she doesn't have to get involved with the CCPD. She doesn't have to go to Jitter. She doesn't have to further make contact with other people and destroy the timeline even further. It's the butterfly effect. So I don't understand why they don't just keep her inside and like not talk to anybody else without risk of ruining the timeline even more than what she's already doing. So that's something I really do not understand as well. So there is that. The third question I had was that, do you think that Nora is working with someone, that her interference with the Enlightenment satellite wasn't of her own choice, like Sherlock had questioned at the end of 503? I mean, now that he mentioned it, I'm now kind of thinking maybe or not that there is someone else maybe pulling the strings a little, maybe manipulating her in a way that she's unaware of, maybe playing to her desire to know her father, and then because of it have an ulterior motive behind it. I mean, I never would have thought that. Also, there was always theories about the fact that it's actually two different speedsters that came from the past, so maybe she is teaming up with someone else, but I have no idea. Again, I don't read the comics, so I don't know where anything could originate from. But now that Sherlock has put it in my head, I have to question it sometimes, right? So there's that. And my last question is, when will we see the return of Nora's Speed Force language journal? And we saw it a few times during the last season whenever we got those glimpses of her. And since we also saw that Speed Force language in both the season premiere and finale of season 4, I'm wondering when it will be addressed and when it will come back. So there is that as well. So let's move on to predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 505, it looks like there's going to be a killer clown that kidnaps Barry. And that killer clown looks like it kind of contorts itself a little bit. Now I'm wondering if it's actually a person or if it's going to be meta tech behind the mask type of thing. So there's that. Also, the episode doesn't come back until November 13th. So again, we get the week hiatus thing. But based off the synopsis, though, for the episode, it reads that Nora lets something slip about the future that devastates Iris. In an attempt to distract his wife, Barry asks Iris to team up to stop a new meta named Ragdoll. Meanwhile, Caitlin learns something about her father. Oh, so based off that synopsis, are we going to learn something else about Iris and Nora in the future, as opposed to what we just learned in 504? That's going to be something there. But it's going to be a little weird that Barry's asking his wife to help him with a meta-human case, considering, unless he asks her on a journalist level. So there's that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I could think about. But what did you guys think of the 3 episodes? What did you guys like about it? What do you think is going to happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts, theories, and predictions about what you think all that is going to be about. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff. I'll find one place. Go check that out. I'm a little more updated when it comes to videos and synopses and stuff, but for the gifs and quotes and stuff, I will get back to that. I do have a whole running list of them all collected, so bear in mind with that. But otherwise, WordPress account, the link for that is down below. Everything I post online is connected to that account. It's more organized, a little more detailed, but it's still a work in progress as well. There's a lot of things I gotta set up, so please keep that in mind as well. But otherwise, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back in a few weeks to see what they say about the next 3 episodes, and then it'll be the 100th episode that we'll be getting to, and then it'll be the crossover, so I'll be here in no time. So until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Bye for now.